Today's project is a tree skirt, and it's an off-the-cuff kind of project. My husband just came home with a new tree, and I do not have a skirt big enough for it. It's a 9-foot tree. The tree we've been using has been like a 5.5-foot pencil tree, so I have the tree skirt that's like this big for that little tiny pencil tree. Now I have a huge 9-foot tree, and I need a big skirt for it. The base, or the trunk of the tree, is really narrow. So when I make my tree, I can make it with a narrower hole at the center, and then it doesn't show all of the stand that goes below it. So I'm going to make this with a pretty narrow hole. You can easily size that up or down according to what you're doing. But if you're doing a pre-lit tree, you really don't want, and I notice when you buy a tree skirt, they usually have a fairly large opening to go around the tree, and it's much bigger than you need. So I bought this, you probably saw this in a little haul I did. I bought this in Fayetteville, Arkansas at the Joann's, thinking I might make pillows out of it, but it's going to become a tree skirt today. So I have 2 pieces of this really pretty snowflake fabric. This is just plain white felt. And this is just going to give it stability on the inside so that the skirt lays nice and it has some weight to it. And then this underneath, let me move all of this, I have got just a plain muslin. It's ivory. You can see it's not quite as pretty. And if I had planned ahead, I'd probably get like a white satin or something, but it's going to be fine. It's a lining. It's going underneath. It's just going to keep dust and stuff from sticking to. I could do it just with this felt, but stuff sticks to felt. It'll be a little easier to care for and brush off if I have something that's not quite so fuzzy like this. And then I also have some silver braid that I'm just going to use around my edges. And then this is just a white sparkle ribbon that I'm going to use to tie it together in the back. So first thing I'm going to do is clear off my table. And I'm going to make my pattern for the lining and for the felt out of this. So let me grab my rulers and things. This is the folded edge of my muslin, and I've folded it in half, and then I folded it back on itself. So you can see I have a fold here and a fold here, and that gives me 4 layers of fabric. And I'm going to just take my little ruler, and I'm going to make a little curve right here using this ruler. So I'm going to start at the point, and I'm only doing an 1.5 inches, which gives me a 3-inch hole. And once I do seam allowance, that'll give me more like a 4-inch hole, which is about perfect. That's actually going to be even bigger than I need because of how small the tree skirt or the tree's little trunk is, because it's pre-lit. So I'm just going around from this point in a curve, staying at that point and making a little circle like that. So now I have this little half circle. And from that, I'm going to take my yardstick and I'm going to measure out 18 inches. And I think it's easier to put the 18 this way. So from my yellow line, I'm going to come out 18 inches. Now, if you're doing a tree skirt and you don't want any panels and you just want a single piece like I'm doing, if you have, I think it's 1.5 yards, or 1.25 yards. It doesn't take very much. You can double fold it just like I've done here, and you can get a tree skirt that's not quite 45 inches around, which is perfect. And no panels at all. 18. Going to keep going around like this till I get a nice curve, and then I'm going to cut it. So here's my curve, and here's my little curve, and now I'm ready to cut. It's all lined up. I'm just going to come in right here and cut that, and here you can see my little circle. So that's about how big. It's going to be a little wider because I'm going to stitch around it, but that's how big that is. And then I'm going to cut out my 17-inch square or circle here. Now I'm cutting through 4 layers of fabric, and I will have to cut, right now it's a circle. And the way I measured it out is the same way you would measure if you're going to make a circle skirt or something like that. So see, I have a nice circle now with a hole. So I'm going to cut across one of these folds so that it opens and I can get it actually around the skirt. But I'm going to leave it closed for now. I'm going to just let that fall off my table. And I'm going to use this as my pattern for my snowflakes. So I'm just going to fold it back real quick. And we're just going to lay it on top, like so. And it just fits, just barely, which is all that matters. And now I'm ready to cut again. Now if you have a rotary mat and a rotary cutter, it would actually be easier. And I have that in the other room at my other cutting table. All right, I'm through. I still have some pretty pieces left to do something with. I love this fabric. Now I'm going to just get my piece of felt, lay it up here, and I'm actually going to just open it up because the felt is wider than these two fabrics. These were 45-inch fabrics and the felt is 60. So I'm just going to there we go. Straighten it out. And I'm going to take my, look at my nice little circle. Isn't that nice? I'm just going to lay it on here and cut around it. And once everything's cut, I'll just open everything up on the same line and we'll be over at the sewing machine. So let me just smooth this out. Be careful when you're doing this because you have a circle. It's a lot of bias. It's easy to stretch it. All right, we're ready to go. And because it's felt, it kind of sticks to itself. So I'm not even worrying about pins. And I'm just going to start cutting out my circle. All right, here are my layers all cut out. And you can see I don't have my circle perfect. They're just sort of lined up, which is fine because once I cut this open, I'm going to cut that perfectly. This is how I've laid it out. I have the fleece on the bottom. On top of that, I have what I'm considering my right side of fabric, which is my snowflakes. And then on top of the snowflakes, I have my lining. So it will be right sides together from snowflakes to lining. I'm treating my felt and my right side as one piece, kind of. These two are going to stay together. This is my lining piece. Before I sew it, I'm going to cut open so that I know where to turn and come up. So I'm going to cut that next. And you can use, like if your fabric, this one has it right here, a fold line, if you've got it in the perfect place, is good. I want to show you on my snowflakes. Here's a fold line on my snowflakes and it goes straight through. And I could cut on that fold line to help me know where to go. But if I cut on this fold line to open it in the back, the other side of that fold line is going to be centered in the front of my skirt. And I would rather have this be on the sides of the skirt where it's less noticeable. I'd like the front of my skirt to have no fold line. So I'm going to actually do it here so that I don't have, I've ironed this because of the type of fabric it is. You need to iron it from the wrong side so that it doesn't come off on your iron. So I'm going to do it this way. This is going to be my spot to cut it open. And I'm going to, so now when I sew, I can sew around this outer circle, come up, sew around the inner circle, and come down. Do it all in one thing. I'm going to put pins in it first, and I'm going to make sure that I have my even feed foot. If you have a walking foot, use that just to help keep all your layers together. All right, I'm about ready to go to the sewing machine, but before I do, I've got my pins around, and right here you can see I've kind of pinned towards the corner where I'm cutting, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this open. And then I'm going to put little ribbon ties. So I'm going to slide my ribbons in there so that they're caught in the seam, which looks more finished and also makes it more sturdy. So So I've cut through that, and now I can make these little circles perfect up here. All right. So now I'm going to take my cute ribbon. All right, so here's my ribbon. And I think if I do, I'm gonna cut them at 13 inches so I can angle my corner and catch that. So it'll be little 12-inch pieces. We're gonna cut us 1, 2, 3, 4 maybe. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I have enough ribbon. So I'm pulling back my lining, taking my little ribbon, and I'm coming down about 1 inch from that hole. I'm gonna just slide it inside, put a pin in it through all the layers, and I'm gonna do it across from each other. Well, I'm just gonna keep doing this, and then I'll see you over at the sewing machine. Just straight stitching around. I have my even feed foot on, white thread, and I'm just gonna start sewing around this, the circle. I am going to put the muslin side down and the felt side up because I just think it's gonna feed a little easier. So I'm gonna go all the way around, and then I'll show you where I clip and turn. Don't forget, like, you can sew it completely, but you need to leave a little opening to pull it through. So don't forget that. I'm going to actually leave my opening between 2 ribbons. So see these 2 little things? I'm gonna start at this one and I'm going to stop at this one. And actually what I usually do is I put a start, like a green for start and a red for stop. I usually color code my pins to help me know. I didn't do that this time. So I'm just gonna have to remember to stop when I get to the white flower once I'm all the way around. So I'll see you when I'm through stitching. I'm completely around. The next thing before I turn it is I need to clip this inner curve. So I'm going to come in and do my little clips up to but not through my stitching line. And then on this outer edge, I'm going to also make little nips just because it makes it fold in nice and wrap. And actually, it's best to do little pie shapes, kind of like pinking shears, like this, to do some of those as you go around. If you do those little pie-shaped parts, it's going to lay a lot prettier when you flip it around. So clipping next, and then I'll turn it. All snipped, clipped, and ready to go. Don't forget to take the little corners off, just so you have nice corners, and I'm going to flip it around. So when you go to flip, you want to make sure that you put your hand between the lining and the right side. If you get between your felt and your right side, you're gonna flip it around and it's not gonna be right. You have to make sure that you're pulling this direction. So I have my hand in here between the lining and the right fabric, and I'm sticking my arm all the way in to the other side, and I'm gonna grab the corner. So I've gone all the way around my circle, poking in that corner, and now I'm pulling it through. Ta-da! So see, as I pull it through, here's my lining, and here's my right side. So I'm going to just gently pull. Got my first ribbon out. It's not very pretty, and it comes out kind of wadded because I left my hole pretty small. It's up to you how big a hole you want to sew up, but I did not want a big hole. I like mine tiny and easy to hide. So I'm going to just keep slowly pulling this around. I'm going to sew shut the little hole, and then I'm going to do some my silver trim. So after this, I'll meet you back at the cutting table where I lay it out and show you where the trim's going to go. It's actually done at this point. Like, I could just stop and put this under my tree. Here's my little ties. I will tell you, I bought this glitter ribbon that I've had, and it acts like Velcro. It stuck to everything. When I was trying to turn it, it was a little bit difficult. I pressed, I could just leave it and be done, but I already have this, so I think I'm going to use it. And it's just a silver braid. On something like this, I always fold under the end because it does want to fray, and I think I'm just gonna go all the way around the outer edge. I could put it on the very edge if I wanted to, but I kind of like it about 1 inch in. So I think I'm just going to top stitch this down. I am going to just use white thread. I think it's not going to show, as I'm trying to match a silver thread. And I'm just gonna top stitch it around the circle. And if I want to, I could also do it around this, and then I'm completely done. If you buy something like this that has sort of a metallic foily surface or print on it, iron it from the wrong side. So when I ironed this, I did iron it from the back side, and then I'll show you my completed skirt.